It's okay, it's recording. Shh. Okay, מכל מקום ההוא בחינת הלקות המוסתר בלבוש נוגה. It's all godliness that is enclosed in the levush of noga. ובפרט בהשגת הבינה שבנפש זו. The noga is specifically in the understanding of bina. So we said that when a person is learning Torah and they're very refined, so therefore it's going to enter directly into the soul and they're going to be mispile very strongly from it.
What does mispile mean?
It means, we're learning Kuntres hispaalus. That's what it means, to be excited about it, but not just like an exterior level of excitement, to really feel excited. Hey guys, could you stop talking now just in the middle of the Shuir, okay?
Like to be excited about the godliness, not just excited because you have to be an excited person.
Yeah, like there's a chitzonius excited. We're not talking about that. When we say the word excited, we're talking about a real inner excitement. Okay? So it's gonna explain. David, I'm giving a share. Maybe you could talk after, please. Okay? Thanks. Okay, a share ein leze erech klal b'chinat or eloki atzmi shemeir b'bina v'saga. The nefesh elokit published b'saga zu atzma shenefesh tivit maseget. Sheyesh b'mein oto or eloki atzmi b'saga debina nefesh elokit. Keshenenit miziv eloki atzmi shebegan eden b'li masach b'elam klal. So basically, the light of godliness is coming out of what you're learning in the level of bina. Okay, if you didn't have a barrier of your animal soul understanding it, then you'll have the same pleasure that you receive in Gan Eden. But what happens is that your godly soul is in your animal soul. Therefore, when you're listening to godly concepts, you might not get excited because the barrier of your animal soul is too strong. And if it's too strong, it's going to block out the light that it's receiving from that place. And now, even though it's in the level of bina, so sometimes you have to toil to understand it. So since you have to toil to understand it, the toiling is to reveal the the light that's shining through it. Okay?
It's so strong.
It's strong. So the barrier is really strong that blocks out the light. So you have to refine your animal soul a lot in order that it won't block out the light that's coming through the understanding. So if you don't have it, then you could be excited about the intellectual concept, and that could be a purely animalistic pleasure.
Okay.
It's called the pleasure of understanding things. Okay?
I can get that from math too.
You can do it in math, yeah. The person that's a mathematician, he's super excited to talk about math all the time.
There's nothing
Academia.
What's that?
Nothing with kedusha.
Yeah. So now it's true that all wisdoms have pleasure in it, but the difference is, as explained in Tzfat, is that in Torah, it's not only does it have pleasure in it, but it also has a revelation of the Ein Sof that's shining through it. Okay, so now v'lezot gam ha'itpa'alut sheba'asaga zu the nefesh elokit nikret b'shem itpa'alut elokut mamash. So because of this, the excitedness in understanding of your godly soul is called godly excitedness. Below kamo itpa'alut shel davar nifrad zulat elokut, not like being excited about something separate outside of godliness, ka'itpa'alut the nefesh tivit ba'asagata, like the animal soul gets when it understands things. This is the main difference between them. In the actual understanding that the animal soul understands. Okay. First we must preface what are very wondrous things. The nefesh tivit be'inin eloki achat sheshomim beit bnei adam. So we see the difference between the godly soul and the animal soul being excited about a godly concept between two different people that are hearing the concept. You tell one person hears it and he has a very strong chush in his hearing of the essential concept, and he's feeling very excited about it. Mitzad hezber hasaga atzma, because of the explanation of the understanding itself. Dahainu, which means it means the idea, the intellectual idea within that thing, the person's very excited about. דהיינו, מפני רוב ההסבר דברים המותאמים בטוב טעם ושכל אנושי עד שנתפס ונתקבל היטב. So you explain somewhat a very deep idea, and you're explaining all the reasons for how that thing is such a way. So the person is he's probably more intellectually in tune, so he's getting very excited about this thing. Vikar hitpalut min haisber levad. So his main form of being excited is the explanation that you're giving him.
Not the thing itself, but the explanation.
Yeah, meaning like you tell someone how something works. And you tell them, like if you're selling someone like a car, right? So if a person is a regular white person that's coming to buy a car, if you tell them all the processes of how everything works, you tell them how the engine works, how the processor works, how the lights have these things, and you explain all the processes, and then that's what they get excited. I know this because my friend used to sell cars, and he told me each type of person you have to tell them something else. One type of person you got to give them a really good deal. One type of person you got to tell them like cool features.
Right.
It has blue lights, like things like that. Well, for regular white people, you gotta tell them processes, how things work. That's to get explanations on stuff, on how it's new technology and it works like this and like that, and they get excited about it. Okay, so that's how some people get excited.
Who do you have to tell so they know you're saving $1?
I could tell you after the recording ends. Tell me all the different personalities.
Wait, so this is a level that's below the guy who saw the actual thing itself?
Well, the point is that he's getting excited about the explanation. That's his person.
Yeah.
It's because it's intellectually sound, so he's excited about how to explain how the whole thing's being explained. But the other guy, he gets excited right away because of the godliness that's inside of it. So the first guy could be it could be very physical. The first guy, he could be completely stuck in all of his taivas and all these things. But you explain him something, he gets very excited because of a deep explanation. The second guy could be much less intellectual and much less, advanced in his understanding, but he refined himself much more. So therefore, you tell him a godly concept, all of a sudden it affects his soul and he gets excited in a godly way right away. So this guy even has a stronger feeling. Because in the second guy, all of the things that are within the explanation are included in his excitedness. Until he could actually bring out all of the explanation himself, because everything is included in his excitedness. He actually gets excited right away from the godliness within the thing. Therefore, automatically, he could actually explain the majority of things in depth and wide, and the whole thing itself. Okay?
He just gets it.
He gets it, yeah. He gets it because he's so excited about the godly thing itself. Now he just got the whole thing.
Right. Like he doesn't need to read the book; he could write the book.
Yeah, exactly. At the level where he just hears it, he could bring it all out. Yeah. Okay. V'yesh b'zeh madrega hayoter pchuta. There's a lower level than that. V'ushe'enu mitpa'el rak b'chinat haruchniut shel hasaga. Someone might be excited just because whatever is being said is spiritual. Okay, so
that'll do it.
What do you say?
That'll do it.
Yeah.
Laws of cows attacking each other and things like that wouldn't excite.
What do you say?
Like laws of my cow attacks your cow.
It would not excite him. Yeah. We're talking about flying snakes. You're gonna excite him. Okay, so now so footnote 63 explains that the person's excited because of the essential understanding that the thing is spiritual and that it's refined and it's a high thing, but not from the ray of truth that is godly within it. It is excited because it's a spiritual thing.
Sort of like those high vibration guys.
Yeah, like the Tzfat, high vibration stuff. Definitely like that stuff. Yeah.
The two sound like they go together.
What do you say?
The two sound like they
Well,
go
they're
together.
really different though, because if it's about the truth of godliness, well, guess what? The Gemara comes from the world of Bria, and if you heard a din in Gemara and you're not excited about it, it means you're not really getting excited about the truth of godliness, because that doesn't excite you.
But what if it
But-
does? They both
Oh,
do.
so then if it does, then that means you're connected to the truth within the godliness within it. But this person is just connected to high ideas. That's it.
I thought
He gets excited about spiritual stuff.
Like something that's spiritual, but it's sheker. He could hear that and get excited too.
Exactly.
there is a spiritual that comes from the highness of Hashem.
Like there's a famous story of a girl that was in India because she wanted to get more spiritual.
Yeah.
No, first she came to Israel and she went to seminary. And one of the classes she was learning was the halacha of returning a lost object. Okay, there's different laws about it, whatever. She wanted to get more spiritual. She went to India and then she was hanging out with this guru and meditating, all these different things. And then they were walking one day and the guru found like a wallet on the floor. And what do you say? It's like, Hashgacha pratis, it must be mine, it must be meant for me. And then she saw that, the tshuva from that thing, because the halacha says you got to return it, even though it looks like God gave it to you, you know what I mean? So, okay, so now...
no.
Okay, so this person is getting excited about spiritual things, okay? What is it? It's rak dimion shav. It's just imagination. It's nothing. Shu koch hamedameh shebabina shebenavsho. It's the koch hamedameh, which means the power in your soul to compare things and imagine things. Power of imagination in your soul. That's in the bina of your soul. So you have a part of yourself that's the bina in your soul. And it's a lot. In Breslov it talks about this a lot. And it says, it explains the Gemara, you can't make your own gzera shava because you're going to come and compare this to this, but there's no makor mimosh Rabbeinu. Therefore, your comparison is just the animalistic part of your soul that's comparing one thing to the next, and you're getting all excited about it. It's just pure fantasies. Okay, there's nothing really to it. Shilamata harbe min hasaga. It's much lower than understanding. Harbe, he writes. Okay, look at the number 64. He says, so sometimes you have a ray of godliness that comes up because it's higher than the understanding of that thing. But basically, if you're not excited about the idea, but rather just the fact that it's spiritual, then it's lower than understanding. And it's just a dimyon shav, an imagination, and where it comes from is called the koach hamadama, which means the power of imagination in your soul, and you just get excited about that thing. Shemizeh ba sibat koach ha-kozev va-medumeh. From this comes the power of kozev, which means deceit, and medumeh, which means imagination. Mechamat bilbul kli hamoach. This comes from the confusion in the vessel of your mind, or mihit gabrut retichat damim, or if you boiled your blood too many times, then that causes you to come up with silly ideas that are just imagination, that have no place in Torah's emes mimoshe misinai, and no truth to it at all. Okay, and number 66.
What does it mean, boiled your blood?
Let me talk about level number 0. Remember we had the 5 levels? So the first level number 0, before the 5 levels, the guy that when he's davening, he's not really in dveikus, and he's just saying things out loud, so his heart just moves and the blood just moves, and he thinks he's in dveikus. So if he does that a lot, that actually causes confusion inside of the person. And when those confusions, if he now gets excited about spiritual things, he'll compare one thing to the next, another thing to the next, and then come up with all these ideas that are all just imaginations.
He's not connected.
Yeah, even though he might be thinking that he is.
Right.
Or telling people that he is. But okay, so in number 66 it says, Hergesh veitlavut govrim ala seichel. So a person's feelings and his excitedness overpowers his mind. V'tmurat havana sichlit hu mitorer me'inyan shelamat mavana. So in exchange for an intellectual understanding, he gets excited from something that's lower than his understanding. Ad shemeta'et atzmo beyoter, he makes himself fall and mistake himself at length a lot. V'sham or l'chosher l'or, he puts light to darkness and darkness to light. V'ma'afech me'balbel u'me'arev sheker ve'emet yachad, he turns over and confuses and mixes together sheker and emes together. V'hu ha'ta'ut hanimtza beyoter This is a mistake that is too commonly found amongst us. The person thinks that this is godly excitedness. That the explanation of his understanding that's beyond the understanding canal, they're completely distant from each other. The person from like light and darkness itself, and that was just in parentheses. And the sign for this is, meaning the proof that a person's excitedness is godly and not just intellectual. Okay, how do you know if what you're feeling excited about is in the state of called godly and not just an intellectual thing? Is and when a person's explaining the details of something, he's able to distinguish with a stronger level of distinguishment. In the depth and the inner parts of the understanding, that comes out from all the details of the explanation, or in the mashal and similar things. So this specifically is the way to come to depth and breadth and height. Lavin davar mitoch davar, to understand one thing from another. Behit rachavut atzuma, in a very expanded way. V'kifle kafayim min divrei hasber sheshama ora'a katuv. So basically, the person sees something written and explains one thing, and the work that you have to do in order to make yourself excited about it is actually going into all the details that are in the thing that's beyond what's written. And then when you're able to explain it to such a degree, then from there, that's the mind of Bina that's working. From there, it channels down to the person's heart, and then you feel excited about it. But if you don't really understand it, and you feel excited about it, it's probably not. It might not be godly yet.
How is that different than the guy who makes his own Gezerah Shavas?
So the guys make their own Zerah Shavas.
I mean, I'm not saying that
it's
diuk is Gezerah Shavas in particular, but the guy.
Yeah, no, it's just a good question. The guy, it seems like the guy that's making the Gezerah Shavas, he's excited before he does this, but the guy who's doing this is excited after he does it. Meaning you have to be in a state of you have to be fully, like kind of settled state to do this properly. And when you're completely settled and you do this, and you go through all the details, from there it creates an emotion. But the other guy is just excited about his spiritual things, so he starts explaining how it's like this and it's like this, and he makes the whole thing of it, and he's all excited about it. So that's not godly yet. That's his animal soul getting excited about spiritual things, because he likes spiritual things. They're cool.
Are we usually looking at these as like being the ways that young people will look at things?
Like what?
All these various categories we're saying is that excites the intellect. Where when you get a little bit older, if you've developed yourself, you're not in the same place anymore.
Well, people still get excited about philosophies and things like that as they grow older too.
Different ways.
It's like the difference between Boston and New York. In Boston, you go on the bus, everyone's with headphones on reading the whole time.
Yeah.
And they're like nothing. So they're like in that kind of a place where everything's just in the mind. It's
okay.
It's just the animal soul comparing one to the next. You know what I mean? Okay, so now Velazot. Okay, we said it. Okay.
A lot of the gurus are old guys. The guru finds a wallet and says, "I've got presents. Let's see mine."
It could be a lot of mistaken. It's mistaken wisdom. It's not
experience too.
It's animalistic, yeah. Which is not the case about someone that only could grab in his mind what he heard or what he saw. Lo yishar it's lo rak dvarim kahavayatan. The only thing that's in him is things the way they are. V'gam hen kegolme chomer belo tzura. They're like matter without form. V'olech u'mit katzer. He goes and shortens it.
So is this saying we should be briskers?
What is to ma'ayin things really well? I mean?
No.
Or to learn only Kodshim?
Like make our own Klalim.
What do you mean?
Like that's like the.
Oh. No, it's not saying that. You have to follow the Kollel, I'm saying.
It sounds like 80% of people
More probably.
a
lot
fall into this category.
Yeah. ורחוקה ממנו זמן מה עד שיתקצר לגמרי ולא ישאר רק מבחינת הכלל בלא תמצית. So the person, he hears something and then in the end you ask him a few weeks later what he learned. He's going to tell you the general idea. It's like when you're learning a sugya in the poskim, right? When you're in the sugya, you get all the details and you go back and forth, isn't it? And then someone might ask you a month later and you'll be like, oh, you remember like one point, one general idea, and you can't really do anything with that.
Go through the whole sugya.
You can't. You remember one little point of the whole thing, okay? So it's actually the same thing with Chassidus. It's the same thing. You have to go in a sugya and go into the sugya, just like you're doing with Nigla. It's the same concept. You have to go to the same depth to understand it. Only the exterior part will remain from the person. Even if he goes back and remembers the general principle by reviewing it many different days, when he goes and reviews it, the godly light is not shining for the person in his soul the same way. It's just like he remembers worldly things. Because since he never felt in his soul a ray of godly light from this understanding. So that's the issue. Like, meaning when you're going into these things and you actually, it sounds like a long shot, because you're going into a sugya in Nistar Torah, and you have to ma'ayin the sugya just like you ma'ayin in Nigla, without any chitzonius type of excitedness. And when you do it more and more, and you go in depth at it, that actually eventually, once you get all the details of it, opens up the heart, and it can actually come to true hispaalus and elokus. But if you just go into a chitzonius way, then you just basically, after you learned it, it's going to start diminishing and slowly but surely going away from you until you just remember the general rule, and then you remember just a little bit of that rule, and then you basically, the godly life force in that thing is too far away from you. You can't do anything with it.
So like the guy who goes in trying to make his own Kollel and then like gets ever so to speak, that's what he's going to remember at the end?
Yeah, it's even worse. I mean, his own made up stuff. It's like like nothing.
Right. What about because the excitement preceded the limud?
Right, because you're just excited about spiritual things, but you have to make a tzimtzum first. You have to learn it like a sugya until you get the details, and then when you do that, through going in all details, the brain shines strongly into that part of your heart after you do the details. It sounds like opposites, because the brain is, it's like water, and the heart's like fire. So how are you going to bridge the gap? So the way to do it is through the or of bina. And when you do bina, it eventually opens up the heart in an emes way.
Right.
And that's when you bridge it properly. And it's hard to do and takes a lot of time.
It seems like the simon here for the opening of the heart, be it emes or sheker, is the forming of klalim.
If you're going to form a kollel,
I'm going to read into it, and I'm going to get extra information, extra rules about how the Rambam's thinking of this or something.
Yeah. What about that?
It's like that's the simon of the heart opening. It's the opening of the sheker, and the shalat, the klal, the sheker, and that's all I remember later. It's my klal.
Yeah.
Well, emes, and I have a klal and emes.
All right, but also it's like the difference doing iyun and knowing all the details versus just getting the klal moving forward.
Right.
If you just get the klal and move forward, then it's gonna be a chitzonius experience. But if you go into it and then you go to all the sugyas, like just like you explain the sugya in Nigla, you ask a question and they want to know the reason for why. You explain the Gemara says like this, and then the Rishonim explain like this, but since it's like this, the Acharim say like this, and because of that, you could do this combination with this. It's like a clear kind of thing, and when you get to that level where you could say it clearly, that means you got it down. It's the same thing with Pnimis Torah. You have to be able to say like a piece of Pnimis Torah and go all details in a clear way, how each part connects to each other, back and forth. And once it's clear, then that opens the mind, which opens the heart. That's how. And when it opens the heart, it'll be a true experience of Ava and Yira. It takes a lot of work, and you have to also calm yourself down, because if you can't, because sometimes it could be exciting because you're talking about spiritual things, but those are all the animalistic parts that wants to feel excited right now, It's actually going to block out godly excitedness. It's funny because you think if like you're learning it, you're going to like, oh my gosh, it's amazing, kedusha. But that could block out actual or eloki. Right? It's a chiddush. Another mistake that people make is some people get excited with the understanding in the explanation, and they think that this is the godliness that's within the understanding. Therefore, he cannot handle the explanation, and he doesn't desire the explanation at all. Just tell me the bottom line. Just tell me I can't go through the whole thing. I don't have room for that. I can't take it. So obviously, he's not there yet. And many people will fall in this mistake of their imagination. This is not from his godly understanding. This is because of the natural nature in the souls of the Jewish people that will get excited for godliness without any reason. This is the smallness of your nefesh, of the last soul in your naran chai, of your godly soul, as we will explain in the next chapter. Okay, basically, when a person's connected to the little part of like the first revelation of their soul, so in that part of your soul hears godly things, so it gets actually excited about godliness. But that's just the first step. But when you go beyond, you have to go in a deeper way. But the feeling of godliness, sheba hanal, and the understanding that we explained, huchush chasidut shel otasaga, is the chush of chasidut, of that understanding. Shubichinat hahiyuli shaba. Hiyuli means it's the concept of the potential that's within it. Kumo hamashke shosim mehit pashtut chalakim rabim, like liquids that you make from many dividing things. Limzog ba rov mashkim k'yadua, like you want to make a drink out of many different drinks. Unikra chomer hapashut. So that's called the chomer pashut, just the base drink that you mix everything else into. Chomer hayuli, it's also called chomer hayuli. So basically, the first drink you need in order to mix the other drinks into is you have to be connected to your nefesh, the lowest level of your godly soul. But if you went to a bar and you said you wanted this special fancy drink and they just gave you, vodka in a cup, you're gonna be disappointed. They're gonna say, "Wait, that's the main part of the drink. It's fine, just drink it. It's not gonna taste good." Okay, vodka doesn't taste good.
You want a screwdriver?
Yeah. Okay, so now to page 370. We have copies here. People want to.
Missing from 370.
Are you sure? Are you sure it's not here?
370 or
Are you sure it's not here?
371.
I looked somewhat, and I think Leibner looked pretty thoroughly.
Oh, really?
I didn't see 370 or 371.
Yes.
Oh, really? Alright, I'm sorry about that. 37. Okay, I'll just. Mato yuvan me'ein dugmat richuk erech hitpalut hasber legabei hitpalut alakut shebehasber. So now we can understand the great distance between being excited about the explanation or in relation to being excited about the godliness that's within the explanation. Yoter hu richuk erech kol ika hitpalut alakut sheba saga sheba nefesh tivit. Even more distant is the excitedness of godliness in the understanding of your natural soul. Legabei hitpalut alakut sheba saga nefesh alakit, in relation to the understanding, the excitedness of your godly soul understanding something. Achit hitpalut hasaga the nefesh tivit, but the excitedness of your animal soul understanding something, your natural soul, kmo levush bilvad, is just a levush alone. Litpalut hasagat the nefesh alakit, in relation to the excitedness of your godly soul. Hamastira u'ma'alima, which actually conceals it. V'chein haratzon v'atanug, the nefesh to eat, so to the will and the pleasure of your natural soul.